The Sumatran rhinoceros, or the scientific name Dicerorhinus sumatransis, are known as the smallest living rhinoceros and the only Asian rhino with two horns. The two-horned Sumatran rhinoceros shares the bleak distinctions of the world's most endangered species with its regional cousin, the Javan rhino. Both species, which is listed as the critically endangered.
Now let's see the interesting feature about Sumatran rhinos. Did you know Sumatran rhinos are actually the smallest species of rhinoceros? Here are the interesting features about them. They have fringed ears. They can grow in the length 2 to 4 meters. They can also weigh 500 to 1000 kilograms. They have two horns. The first horns are known as the nasal horn, which are larger than the other horn, which is typically a stub. The last feature is they are coated with a reddish brown hair on their body, which helps them to keep the mud stick on their body on the hot summer.
Let's continue to the next part. Back then, Sumatran rhinos can be found throughout Southeast Asia, particularly in Indonesia, Malaysia, Myanmar, Bhutan, and Thailand. However, due to habitat loss and poaching, the only remaining population to this day can only be found in Indonesia, that is Kalimantan and Sumatra Island.
Iman, the last female Sumatran rhinos in Malaysia, died on the late afternoon of 23 November at a captive facility in the Malaysian Bornean state of Sabah, according to the local wildlife department. Iman was given the very best care and attention ever since her capture in March 2014 right up to the moment she passed. In her last few days, Iman's health had deteriorated according to the news report. She was named after a river near where she was discovered and captured in Sabah's Daniels Valley for a captive breeding program.
Let's talk about Tam. Tam was Malaysia's last male Sumatran rhino. He was found and rescued from a palm oil plantation in 2008 and then placed in Tabir Wildlife Reserve in Sabah. To save this species from extinct, there are some efforts made to breed Tam with two female rhino that were Iman and Puntung. Unfortunately, the breeding was unsuccessful. In May 2019, Tam died, leaving no more male Sumatra rhino in Malaysia. It was reported that Tam's condition had been slowly declining since late April when his appetite and alertness declined. Urine analysis tests indicated that Tam was suffering from organ damage and poor kidney function. Tam also reached an old age where he was estimated to be in his 30s, as these animals only have a life expectancy of 35 to 40 years.
As tragic as Tam did is, it a wake-up call to find more animals in the wild. The good news is that the coalition had already success in capturing a new female named Pahu. Her transfer to the new breeding facility in Kalian was so important. The rhino was for an escort from both police and MAZLAN clearing bulldozer. So far as experts can tell, Pahu does seem to be reproductively healthy. She is thriving in her new home, and with any luck, she may soon have a company. Our most recent survey indicates there are other rhinos still roaming in Kalimantan's forest, which give me renewed hope. We need to continue to be laser focused on saving the remaining 18 Sumatran rhinos using a combination of intensive protection and capturing, breeding, and working with local people to instill pride that the rhino is part of their biological heritage. This is a battle we can afford to lose.
Shortly after her capture, veterinary staff found that Iman had a uterine tumor that prevented them from breeding her with Tam. This is because the female species of Sumatran rhino can develop cysts and fibroids in their reproductive tracts if they go too long without mating. And this is the cause of Iman's infertility.
So, how did they save Iman? Iman died after a long battle with uterine tumors. She had been battling massive blood loss from a ruptured uterine tumor over the past couple of years, a condition that almost killed her on previous occasions. Because of the growing pressure of the tumors into the bladder, she started to suffer significant pain. So, on the late afternoon of 23 November 2019, at the age of 25, Iman, the last Sumatran rhino in Malaysia, died.
Ecological role. The Sumatran rhino has a significant ecological role as a seed disperser. This past March, Mubiki released an article describing a new research study that identified the importance of Sumatran rhino as a primary seed disperser for at least 79 plant species. As the Sumatran rhino population declines, the plants also lose an important aid to their survival. Megafauna can swallow large fruit whole, carrying seed in their guts for meals before depositing them into a nutrient-rich dung pile. When disperser intention disrupt this plant-animal partnership, a tree's offspring can become stranded and must compete with their parents and siblings to survive. These issues underscore the importance of revitalizing rhino population and preserving their habitat, as the extinction of this species would make the continuation of other plant species much more difficult.
So, what is the problem faced by the species, or to be specific, why Sumatran rhino were endangered? First, poaching. Since Sumatran rhino's iconic horn has so many advantages, it's lead to poaching. Their horns that are made of keratin can use as traditional medicine for Chinese. Besides, it's also useful in the Middle East, especially Yemen and North Africa, that use the horn as ornamental dagger handle. Secondly, illegal wildlife trade. Even though international trade in rhino has been banned, demand still remain high, and rhino poaching is still ongoing in both Africa and Asia until now. They use several series of transit points and smuggling channels to get the product to the final destination. Vietnam and Chinese are the main market, as they use it for health supplement and party drug. In Vietnam, there is also a newly emerged belief that rhino horn can cure cancer. Lastly, habitat loss. As we know now, economic development is more important than saving the habitat of animals.
Today, there are less than 100 of these critically endangered rhinos left. In Malaysia, we have spent decades desperately working to save this species. Despite countless attempts to find more rhinos in little explored jungles, none have been found of late. In 2015, the Sumatran rhinos was declared
Other than that, Malaysia has done its level best to save the Sumatran rhinos since 1980, including multi breeding program and pursuing conservation collaboration with key parties. All to know of it, Borneo Rhino Alliance Bora Executive Director Dr. John Payne told the new Straits Times that many opportunities to save the species had been rejected by people in position of authority.
Liu said Sabah would continue to pursue the partnership with Indonesia despite Iman that, as it could include collaboration in management of female Sumatran rhinos with reproductive pathology, safe harvesting of gametes from living rhino, and cell culture.
Iman death mean there are now no more Sumatran rhinos in Malaysia, either in captivity or in the wild. The country declared in 2015 that the species was extinct in the wild, with only the captive population remaining. Between 1987 and 2014, Malaysia had captured over a dozen white rhinos. The passing of Iman, Malaysia's last known Sumatran rhino, marks a tragic development for this species. John Paul Rodriguez, Chair of the IUCN Species Survival Commission, said in a statement. Iman's death underscores the urgency of the global committee's effort to save the Sumatran rhino from extinction, and we are committed to continuing our work to support the government of Indonesia's emergency action plan to save this species, he added. Indonesia developed the plan in 2017 to capture rhinos and coral them into large semi-natural breeding and research facilities modeled on the Sumatran Rhino Sanctuary SRS in Waikambas National Park in Sumatra's Lampung province. The action plan also calls for breeding programs between captive rhinos. 2 rhino calves have been born at Waikambas, both conceived by natural means. Indonesian conservationists also hope to try an IVF attempt using egg harvested from a lone female at the second SRS facility in Indonesian Borneo. They plan to fertilize it with sperm from one of the males at the Sumatran facility in a bid to boost the species gene pool. Tumor in Iman's uterus ruptured in 2017. Scientists didn't believe she could carry a baby to term, but her eggs can still be utilized. Image courtesy of Sabah Wildlife Department. The critically endangered species was decimated by poaching, a habitat loss in the past. But today, observers say the small and fragmented nature of their populations and a correspondingly low birth rate is the biggest threat to their survival. Few of the remaining populations left in the wild are believed to be large enough to support natural reproduction, and isolated individuals have been found to be prone to developing reproductive pathologies like the uterine tumors suffered by Iman. With no more than 80 Sumatran rhinos left on the planet, the species' last hope lies in Indonesia. The country has 8 individuals in captivity, 7 in Sumatra, including the 2 captive-born calves and 1 in Borneo.
How to enhance the conservation activities? First, form alliance between organizations to save this endangered species. Second, build capacity, establishing 2 new Sumatra rhino sanctuaries in Indonesia, one in Kalimantan and the other one in northern Sumatra Island.
Third, search and rescue. Undertaking search and rescue operations to move isolated Sumatran rhinos to manage conservation breeding facilities. Lastly, care and protection.